Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Power BI series. In this video, we'll explore one of the most essential topics in DAX, which is aggregation functions. By the end of this video, you will know exactly when to use each aggregation and how to use them in your Power BI reports. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to get the data into Power BI Desktop, and the data is present in the Excel workbook, and you'll get the link of the same in the description of this video. So I'm going to use the Excel connector, and the file is stored in the desktop. So I'm going to get it from there itself. I'm trying to get the data from this particular workbook called orders data, and it is having this worksheet named orders. So if I click on the same on the right side, you will be able to see the preview of the data present in that workbook. So here you'll be able to understand these are the columns that are present in there: order ID, the order date, year, part, quarter, month, name of the month, which particular customer purchased that particular order or the product, right? The demographics information about the same customer, then information related to the products, then the quantities ordered, price of every quantity, the sales that we have generated at the end of the day, and the profit, right? So that information I'm having with me, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this checkbox so that these two buttons are going to get enabled. So let me click on this checkbox, and here you'll be able to see the both buttons are now enabled. Now, if I click on the load, then what is going to happen is the same data is loaded into my Power BI desktop. If I click on transform data, then the same data is I'll be able to see in my Power Query editor, where I will be able to transform this particular data. So as of now, this data is already cleaned, but just to cross check, we are going to go to Power Query editor. So let me click on transform data, which is going to redirect you to the Power Query editor. So this is how Power Query editor's interface looks like. And with the help of Power Query editor, what you can do is you can clean your data, or you can perform the transformations or the operations on top of your data. So let's say I want to understand how many rows of data I'm having with me. So for that, I can go to the transform data tab, and I can click on this option called count rows. So if you click on the count rows option, then you'll be able to understand that you're having these many rows of data with you. Now, whichever option that you're using from your Power Query, every step is recorded on the right side in this section called applied steps. Now I'm going to cross it out because I know how many rows of data I'm having with me. Okay, so I'm going to cross it out, and also let's try to understand, are there any missing data, are there any missing rows or any uh, error rows or the empty rows in this data set or not. So for that, I'm going to go to view tab, and let me check this option called column quality and column distribution, which are going to help you out understanding the percentage of valid error empty records present in the every column. If you check this option, and if you check this option, then you will be able to understand the distribution of the values, like how many distinct values are there and how many unique values are there. Now, by default, Power Query is going to showcase you the values of this percentages and the distinct and unique values count only for the top 1000 rows. But we have already seen as of now there are more than 1000 rows in the data set. So we are going to check it, change it from top 1000 rows to column profiling based on entire data. So based on entire data, I want to see this particular values of valid error and empty percentage contributions, right? Now, I have already checked this data is already clean. No data cleaning is required for this particular data as of now. So, but these are the steps that you need to follow before you perform any kind of analysis, right? So now I've cross-checked everything, and this data is good to go for the analysis part in Power BI desktop. So that is why I'm going to click on close and apply. And once you click on close and apply, then you will be able to see that particular exact table getting loaded in your Power BI desktop. So just wait for a few minutes, a few seconds I mean, and here you'll be able to see the data. Now in this particular section you will be able to see the name of your table and the columns in it, and the columns in front of few of the columns you are able to see this summation sign, or you can say the sigma sign. It is because those columns are having the numerical values, and as these values are numerical, you can perform aggregation operations on top of it. Now we are going to look at those aggregations operations in a bit. Okay, so let us try to see this data exactly, because here I'm not able to see the data, right? So to see the data, you'll have to switch your view using this view switchers. So currently I'm present in my report view. Now I'm going to click on table view, and here I will be able to see the data. Now this is what my data looks like, and this data is particularly having 1999 rows in it, and there are so many columns. Okay, now let us try to understand what exactly aggregation functions are. So we have already understood what exactly DAX is, how to create the measures and calculated columns and the calculated tables. As of now, we are going to get started with the aggregation functions. So aggregation functions are the functions which are going to help you summarize your data. Like based on this particular data, you might want to find out the total values of cells. You might want to find out the total profit, or you might want to find out on an average the profit which is getting generated, or let's say you want to understand total number of customers, right? Total number of states in which I'm having this particular business, right? So these are certain questions that are in front of me, and to get the answer of those, I am going to take help of the aggregation functions. So aggregation is nothing but combination, or combining the values in order to get a single value, single scalar value. So aggregation functions are your best friend whenever you need to combine these multiple rows into a single value. Now we are going to cover the key aggregation functions like sum x, average, average x, count, count a, count rows, distinct count, and the min and the max functions. So let's go one by one. So before we jump on and get started with creating different aggregation functions, I would like to have a table which is going to store all these type of measures in it, because obviously measures are going to give you a single value unless and until you add any categorical data to it, right? So that is why I'm going to create another table which is going to store the key measures that I am going to create. So how can you create the table is for that you can either go to the report view, or you can be present in the table view as well. In the home tab, you will be able to see this option called enter data. Now why am I creating is this, because I don't want to conflict the measures that I am going to create with the original columns of this particular table. So that is why I have to store all those measures into a separate table named key measures, or you can give any other name to that table of your choice. So how to create the table dedicated for storing all the measures? For that, just click on the enter data option, and here you'll be able to see this type of interface, and here you can change the name of your table. So here I'm going to type it down the name as a key measures, and then I'm going to click on the load. So in this particular table, I'm going to have all the measures getting created, and this particular thing is going to help me out in better organizing my data model. So what exactly data model? So to understand that, you'll have to switch your view again from the table view to the model view. So in the model view, you will be able to see there are two tables in here, one named order and another called table key measures, right? So orders is your original table, and it is having all the transactional data you're having in it, and key measures is we have created just to store all the measures that we are going to create. This is the dedicated measure table created only for storing the measures, guys. Okay, and these two tables are no way connected to each other. That is also one more thing you have to keep in mind. Now let us try to understand, and let us try to create the different aggregation functions, and those aggregation functions we are obviously going to use within a measures. So based on this data that I'm having with me, you will be able to see I'm having the cells column with me, right? So I want to compute the total value of cells that is getting generated by this particular shop or by this particular business. So how can you create this particular table? Or how can you create particular measure called total cells? So for that, we are going to use the sum function. So sum is a function which comes under aggregation function category, and this function is going to add all these numerical values in the given column. And numerical columns is having the data which can be there in either numbers with decimal points or numbers without decimal points. So I just want to add up all these values, not by my own, but by taking help of the DAX aggregation function called sum. So how to do that part? So I'm going to put my cursor over here in my key measures table, and now you'll be able to see this option getting appeared called new measure, or else you can go to the report view. You can select this table called key measures, because I am going to store all the measures in this table itself. So I'm going to click on the same, and let me click on new measure option. Now here you have to type down the name of your major first. So in this particular thing, I am going to calculate the total values of cells. So you should always give a meaningful name to the same. So I am going to give the name as a total cells, and to which I have to give the equal to sign followed by my DAX expression. So what DAX expression I'm going to use is I just want to use the sum function. So sum is a function, and this function is going to add all the numbers in the given column that you are going to specify. Okay, and this particular thing that you are able to see, this is called as intelligence. Power BI is automatically suggesting you all the functions that are starting with this sum. Okay, then I'm going to give the brackets, these are the opening parentheses, and input to the function. So on which column you want to perform this addition operation, or you want to perform the sum operation, is on the cells column. Okay, cells column. So how can you do that particular thing? So to do that, what you can do is you can select the orders table, and once you write the orders, you will be able to see all the columns in that particular table. Now on which column I want to perform this operation, I want to perform it on the cells column of my orders table. So to refer any column of your table, you have to follow this particular syntax where you will be writing the name of the table first, then followed by square bracket, followed by the name of the column. So I'm going to select this. So you don't have to type it down entirely on your own. You have to take help of this particular intelligence. So to select this particular thing, either you can press click over here, or else you can press the tab key from your laptop. Now you have to close the bracket obviously, and then this measure is ready. This calculation is ready. Now let me click on this commit, and you will be able to see this measure is going to get created. Right now, as you have created this particular measure, you can delete this particular column. So how can you delete that column? Just click on the more options, and click from delete from model. Now I will not be able to see the value in it until and unless I drag it to my canvas. So let me try to drag it, and here you will be able to see the value of cells that is getting generated. Okay, so 2.59 million cells are getting generated by that particular transactional data that we were having with us. Okay, so this is all about the sum function. Now let's try to look at the next function. Next version of the sum is a sumx. So let's say if you want to compute the total cells. So here you were having the cells column with you directly, right? But what if this column was not there as a part of this table? You were only given with the quantity and the unit price. How you would have computed the cells? So you would have computed the cells by just multiplying the quantity by the unit price, right? So that is what we are going to do, and to do that operation we are going to take help of the sumx. Now assume you are not having the cells column with you, but still you are going to get the same value, but by using other function called sumx. Now how to use that? Okay, so actually sumx is a iterator function, so which is going to perform a row by row calculation. It is going to evaluate that result, the given that you have given in the expression, and then it is going to take sum on top of it. So let's try to see that in practice. So I'm going to create another measure. So just click on this option and click on the new measure option. Here you can give the name to this measure as a total cells, and to which I'm going to give a name in bracket. I'm going to type it down as a sumx, just to identify that we have created this measure using sumx iterator function. So how to type down the syntax of the same? So you have to first of all start with the sumx, which is what the name of your function. So sumx is a function which is going to return the sum of expression evaluated for each row in a table. So whatever expression that you want to calculate, that is going to get calculated for every row of the given table. Okay, so let me select on this function, and this function is having the two arguments in it, table and expression. So table is, it can be the physical table or the virtual table that you have created, but as of now I am going to pass the table on which I want to perform the expression. So the table that I'm having with me is the orders table, right? So I'm going to select it, and that is what my first argument, and then I'm going to pass down the expression. So what is the calculation that I want to perform? How will I be able to get the total cells? I will be able to get the total cells when I multiply the quantity by the unit price, right? So I'm going to type it down. So I'm just going to type down the QUAN. So you don't have to type down entirely, guys. Okay, you just have to type down the few words from your particular column name, and you'll be able to get the suggestions. So to select it, you can press the tab key, then you have to multiply this quantity by the unit price. So again, I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to close the bracket. That's it. Now this function sumx is what it is going to do. It is going to evaluate on this particular table. It is going to multiply the quantity by the unit price, and then imagine that it is going to create the values of this calculation for every row of your orders table. So imagine that you'll be having a new separate column getting created for this calculation, for this entire expression. And once you have got that new column, it is going to take the sum out of it, and it is going to give you the value exactly like this which we have got, but by using sum function. So the same answer you are going to get with the sumx as well. So let me commit it and let me try to add it over here. And if you can see, both are giving you the same answer itself, right? So this is what a sum function and this is what a sumx. The only difference is here we have used the ready-made available column that were present in my orders table. Here I have calculated the expression and then I have sum it up. That's the only difference. Now let's try to move forward and let's try to understand the next function on the list, which is the average. So you guys all know how to compute the average, right? So average is just a mean value. How can you calculate the mean is you have to sum all the values and then you have to divide it by the total number of values in it, right? So average function is going to calculate the mean value of a column and which is having the numerical values, of course, right? So let's say if I want to understand what are my average cells, so how can you get that value? Is for that you'll have to create another measure. So again, I'm going to click on the same and I'm going to click on the new measure option. Here I'm going to pass the values as a name of my measure as a average cells, and I'm going to give equal to sign. Every time you have to follow this syntax only. The name of your major followed by equal to sign followed by DAX expression. Okay. And if you want to increase the font size of this particular thing, you can press the Control plus simultaneously from your laptop keyboard. Okay. Now here I'm going to type down my expression. So to calculate the average, we are having the aggregation function called average. Okay, so I'm going to select it and average is going to return the mean of all the numbers. So you can calculate the mean only on the numerical values, right? So I'm going to select it and I'm going to pass the column. The same column I'm going to pass the cells column of my orders table, and let's try to see on an average how much cells we are generating. So let me commit it, and you'll not be able to see this value of average cells unless you drag it on your keyboard. Okay, so this is what the average amount of the cells that we are generating. Now the same way we can also use the average x function the way we have used the sum x. So how can you use the average x? So average x is also a next version of the average function, which is a iterator function. So it is going to iterate, it is going to traverse on every row of your table to calculate the given expression, and then on top of it it is going to calculate the average just like sum x. So if you have understood sum x, then to understand any other iterator functions is going to be very easy. Okay, now let's try to get the same value 1.30k but by using average x function. So how you'll be able to get it? So for that again I'll have to create a new measure. So let me create a new measure, and here let me pass down the value as name of my measure as average cells, and in bracket I'm going to pass the avgx. So just to let me understand that I have used the average x function over here, and after equal to sign I'm going to select this function average x, and to which you have to pass the name of the table on which you want to perform the expression. So the name of the table is my orders table. So I'm going to select that, and then you have to give comma, and the expression that you want to evaluate is you have to multiply the unit price by the quantity sold, right? So I'm going to select that columns unit price multiplied by quantity, assuming that I'm not having the sales column originally in my table. Okay, so let me select this column order quantity and let me close the bracket. Closing and opening of the brackets is really very important. Okay, so this is what the starting of your average x function, and this is what the function is going to get terminated, and to which I have passed the name of my table orders table. On this table I want to perform this particular operation. So every time it is going to multiply for every row of your table orders, it is going to evaluate this expression. It is going to multiply your price by the quantity, and it is going to create a new column virtually, and on top of the values that are present in that column, it is going to compute the average. That's it. And let me click on commit, and once you click on commit, that function, that measure is going to get created. Now I can add it on my report and you'll be able to see the same value. So the same thing you can also get with the help of average and average x as well. The only difference in these two is I have computed this particular measure by using original column, sales column in my table, and here I have used the average x function for the same. Okay. Now let's try to move further and let's try to understand the count function. So count function is also another aggregation function which is going to count the non-blank values. So the count function in a DAX is going to calculate, or it is going to count every type of value except the blank values. So what does that mean? So you can count numbers, you can count the dates, you can count the strings or the texts as well. So let's try to have an example of the same. So let's say I want to understand total number of orders. So for that I'm going to create another measure. So key measures, then click on new measure. Here you can type down the name to your measure followed by equal to sign followed by expression. So here I'm going to type it down the name of my measure as a total orders. This is the name of my measure equal to sign. After that I'm going to use the count function. So to which this function I'm going to pass the order ID column because I want to count all the orders. So as you have already seen, I'm having the order ID column in my orders table. So I'm going to pass that particular column to this particular function. So let me pass that order ID. So you can search it here and you can select it using the tab key from your laptop. Then I'm going to close the bracket. That's it. Count is a function to which you have to pass the column name of which you want to count the values, and count function is going to count every type of value except the blank ones. So let me click on commit, and here you'll be able to see the total number of orders that we are having with us. So we are having almost 1999 orders. That is what we have got. Now also you can use the count rows functions. So count rows is a function which is going to count the number of rows in a table. So it also works exactly like the the count function that we have already seen. So let's try to use the count rows function now. So count rows function, for that let me add a new measure for the same, and here I'm going to type it down the name of my measure as a total rows and equal to sign. Here I'm going to use the count rows function, count rows, and select it with the tab key, and to which you have to pass the table. So here whatever the thing that you are able to see in the brackets, these are optional things, but here I am present in the key measures table which is already a measures table. It is not a real table, just like a table which is having the rows and columns. That is why I have to mention the table name to here. So let me mention the table name as the orders table and let me hit enter. Then you are going to see the same exact count that you have seen in the total orders, because this is what the total rows, this is my total orders. Now there is one more function in the count series which is called as a count A. So count A is going to count the again non-empty values. It could be numbers, it could be text, it could be dates, but it is also going to consider the boolean values as well, logical values, true false values as well. So let's try to use the count A function. As of now I don't have the logical values in it, but let me showcase you how does count A function works. So here I'm going to give the name to the my measure as a total number of customers, and let's say I want to find out how many total customers I'm having with me. Here you can use count functions also, but you can use count A function also, because count A function can also count the total number of customers. Now customer names are guys textual data, right? So you can use count function, count A function, does not matter. Okay, so I'm going to use the count A function, and to which I'm going to pass the customer name column of my orders table. Now what count A is going to do is count A is going to count all the names of the customers that are there in that particular table called orders, and let me hit enter. And if you try to drag this particular measure on your canvas, you will be able to see you are able to get the same count, because there are no blank values in that particular columns. That's why you're getting the answer of all these three things as the same itself, right? Now there is one more functions in the series called as distinct count. Now what distinct count mean? Distinct count is a function which is going to count down the unique values, the values that are different from each other. If I go to my table view, and if you click on the orders table here, you will be able to see I'm having different states, right? So I want to understand how many different states that are present in here, because here California is repeating, Texas is repeating, Washington is repeating, right? But I just want to have the distinct value key total how many states I'm having with me. So for that I cannot use count, because if I use count then I'm going to get the same answer that I've got earlier, because count and count A both are going to count every value that is present in here, but I am interested in calculating the unique values that are different from each other. That is where I can use distinct count function. So how to use that, let's try to see that in action. So let me click on new measure, and I'm going to give it a name as a distinct state count and equal to sign. Then you have to write the function name, which is called as a distinct count. So let me select on that function, and you have to just pass a column name of which you want to calculate the distinct values. So I want to calculate the distinct values from a state column of orders table. So that is what I'm going to pass over here, and let me hit enter. Now if I try to drag it over here, I'm going to see the value as a 6, right? 6. Why is it 6? Because if I go to my table view and if I click on my orders table, and if you move to this state column, you will be able to see, if you select this column at the bottom, you'll be able to see that total there are 1999 rows, but out of which 6 are the distinct states. So that is what I have got using the distinct count function. Now, there are two more functions that we are going to cover today. Those are min and the max. So min and max, these are also the aggregation functions which are also going to give you a single value. So min function is going to give you the minimum value of a given column, and max is going to give you a maximum value of a given column. So let's say I want to understand the minimum value of cells and the maximum value of cells. So for that, I'm going to create two new measures. So let me create the first measure for minimum cells. So I'm going to type down the name as a min cells. That is what name of my measure. Then I'm going to use the function called min. So min is a function which is going to return the smallest value from the given column. So let me pass down the value, uh, and I want to calculate the minimum value from my cells column. So I'm going to type down the value as a orders tables cells column. I want to calculate the minimum value from the same. So I have created this measure, and to see the value in it, you'll have to drag it on your canvas. Then only you can see it. So this is what the minimum value of the cells, and also I want to understand what is the maximum value of the cells. So again, I'm going to put my cursor over here, and I'm going to create a new measure, and I'm going to type down the name to this as a maximum cells and equal to sign. And obviously you might have guessed which function I'll be using here is a maximum, right? So maximum function is I have used, and I'm going to pass down the cells column again, and to which this function, and I'm going to close the bracket, and you can hit either enter key or you can click on the commit button, and the measure is going to get created, but you'll not be able to see the data or the actual value in it unless you drag it on the canvas. So here, this is what the maximum value of cells, this is what the minimum value of the cells, this is what the average value of cells, and these are my total cells, right? So that's all for this video, guys. We covered all key DAX aggregation functions. Thanks for watching till here, and I will see you in the next one.